Tampa was 8-9. They won the the NFC South. Tom Brady looked to be not exactly what we hoped him to be this year, but there were some other looming factors as to why they had the record that they did. So what do you think the Buccaneers need to do to improve for 2023?
Well, there's a few things. If I had to list three, the first one is probably get a coaching staff, because last week we saw the Buccaneers completely gut their entire offensive coaching staff. Kev, I think all told, I think there were somewhere around 9 to 10 coaches that either were fired or retired. So the front office definitely had the perspective of this wasn't working. We need to completely gut the entire offensive coaching staff and start from scratch. I don't know if that's the best scenario that they could have worked themselves into, because apparently Bruce Arians was not happy about that situation when all those firings took place. So, but nonetheless, they're going to have to rebuild their entire offensive coaching staff. And with Todd Bowles leading the way, I'm not so sure that he's going to be the guy to lead that charge to be able to fix that coaching staff effectively. So they could have went after Bill O'Brien, but he ended up deciding to go back to New England to pair up with Bill Belichick to be their offensive coordinator. That could have been nice for the Bucs had they been able to bring Bill O'Brien back in and maybe get that old relationship with Tom and Bill back in there, but that's not going to happen. So they got a lot of work cut out to fix this offensive coaching staff, so it's not going to be easy. The second one, they have to bolster up their offensive line. There's no other way to say it. The offensive line, as far as I saw with the Bucs this year, they were utterly atrocious. They were able to not be the team that they were from an offensive line perspective that they were 2 years ago or even last year. The Bucs had one of the best offenses the last 2 years that Brady had been there, and this year they took a precipitous drop off, and it was simply because the offensive line couldn't protect Brady and they couldn't open up run lanes. The Bucs had one of the worst rushing offenses in the NFL, if not the worst. They were averaging at one point somewhere around 60 to 65 yards a game in the run game. It just wasn't effective. When you lose some Pro Bowl when you lose some Pro Bowl offensive linemen that they did from not this past season, but the season before, you're going to have a drop off. But I didn't think people were expecting it to be this bad. So going into this offseason, they definitely need to address their offensive line concerns. And then the last one, try to bring Brady back. I think it's as simple as that. When you look at Brady compared to some of the quarterbacks that they have at their disposal, I mean, it's a night and day difference. I mean, I think you have Blaine Gabbert back there. I think Kyle Trask is their third string quarterback. And you look at those guys compared to Tom Brady, it's a night and day difference, like I already said. And I think if they're able to bring him back, I think it will somewhat stabilize them as a team. If they don't, then the Bucs are probably going to go into full rebuild as far as I see it. And they may gut not just the offense, they may gut some portions of the team to try to bring in some sort of value potentially in return for those guys. So the Bucs have their work cut out for them this offseason as far as I see it. But if I had to pick three things in particular, first things first, get an offensive coaching staff, rebuild the offensive line, and try to get Brady back at all costs. If they're able to do those things, who knows? Maybe they could set themselves up for a playoff run next year. But if they don't, I think they're going to be in trouble going into next season. And it's just that simple.
I mean, for me, when it comes to Tampa, I think that, in my personal opinion, I think Tom is gone. I think with Byron Leftwich leaving, I think with the offensive coaching staff that was pretty much all let go, I think that fully indicates, and from what I can understand, as a full rebuild of sorts. I know that Tom said he hasn't ruled out Tampa, or the reports are saying that he hasn't ruled out Tampa, especially with his kids living in Florida with his ex-wife. But I think that maybe that might lead into something different, but we'll get into the Tom Brady narrative a little bit later. In terms of what I believe that Tampa needs, they're going to need a quarterback, regardless of what Tom does this year. It is, or should I say next season, they need a quarterback of the future. Blaine Gabbert is not the guy. Kyle Trask hasn't been given enough of an opportunity. So if he wants to be a backup, a third string, a practice squad, they need somebody that is going to be able to take the reins from Tom and take this team and continue to move forward as they move past the era of Tom Brady and their most recent Super Bowl. Second, I think that they need to build up this offensive line, specifically at the tackle position. Donovan Smith was rated the worst tackle in the NFL. What was it, the right tackle position, Kyle?
He was, I believe, at the left tackle position.
So even worse, the blind spot. Absolutely horrendous. I think he was one of the top offensive linemen to have one of the worst, if not the highest rating in terms of holding penalties. So he was just getting beat week in and week out. You got to focus on the tackle position. Make sure you protect that blind side of whoever's under center next season. And then for me, it's got to be the running back room. Leonard Fournette did not pan out. I know that they have this other guy. I think it was Rashad White. You have to find somebody that is going to create room for you in that backfield. Someone that's going to move the pile. Someone that's going to extend plays, extend drives, um, move the pile outside of the tackles. Get outside, be able to have that quickness. And I don't think Rashad White showed enough for me this season to say that he's going to be the definitive number one. And then Leonard Fournette came in a little bit overweight, had a little bit of an issue this year with play calling. I mean, he could not get it going in terms of averaging specific yards per carry. I just didn't think he was efficient at all, at least from what I had seen. And I know that the offensive line had struggled significantly, but overall, I mean, obviously at that point, the running back room has got to improve significantly. You have Mike Evans in the receiver room, you have Chris Godwin, you had Julio Jones, you have Russell Gage. And then, of course, you have Kate Otten in the tight end room and so on and so forth. But overall, I really do believe that Tampa's got to revamp this entire offense. The coaching staff is pivotal, yes. Tom Brady coming back, it could or could not be pivotal. I mean, we're talking about a 46-year-old quarterback that he would be by the time next season is over, maybe even 47. I don't remember his exact age. I think that planning for the future in terms of having a quarterback that is younger, that is going to be leading this team moving forward, having an offensive line specifically focalizing on the tackle position. And then, of course, when you improve the running back room, that will make this offense that much better. And I think it'll flow a little bit more efficiently completely next season.